We're going to pause real quick and take roll since we have our quorum before you start.
Senators Crawford.
Here.
Gregory.
Here.
Brown. Huff. McCreary.
Here.
Mosley. Here. Trent.
We do have a quorum. All right, Senator Brattin, whenever you're ready, you can proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Rick Brattin, 31st Senatorial District, Cass, Bates, and Johnson County. I have before you Senate Bill 194. This has a few provisions in it. I know one has heartburn. Honestly, I had meant to get a sub, the one that probably has the most heartburn, dealing with the state treasurer custody, and potentially just walking that one out of the bill to kind of alleviate a lot of the concerns. Even though I agree with that premise, but what this bill has, it has the ban on the central bank digital currency. So don't get that confused with Bitcoin or anything of that nature that you would invest in. This is a federally mandated digital currency. That's what this would prohibit. So that portion, it also has the capital gains, protecting from capital gains tax on gold and silver, and then just making it to where it's a legal tender. Gold and silver would be a potential legal tender. Now, just kind of the history of the dollar, just to kind of explain why I think this is a good move. Well, first off, the dollar, I mean, it's mentioned in our Constitution. It has no definition, well, because the founders at the time knew exactly what the dollar was. And I was just going to kind of give a little bit of a history. It was actually considered a peso from the Spaniards of the time. It was actually called a piezas de ocho, and it was a piece of silver that was, about that big around, and it was, divvied up into 8 little pieces, and they utilized. Everyone knew what it was. Nobody even had to question it. It was, make sure I get it correct, 371.25 grains of pure silver. And that was the monetary means basically worldwide. And since the Federal Reserve and the invention of the new American style of paper money dollar, we were tied to some sort of a semblance of a gold standard up till 1971. But since we've went off of that, even a gold standard, the capability for inflation to print money and to devalue the dollar has been tremendous. In fact, in 1913, when they passed the income tax, the dollar we have today, if you went back to 1913, it would be worth $32 in today's money. That's what the rate of inflation and the way our dollar has been devalued. Since 71, going off the gold standard, the dollar was worth in today's money $7.84. We've seen an 87% decline just in the value of the dollar. Imagine all of our parents, grandparents that grew up in the Depression era that saved up a lot of the hard work that they did. The wealth and the generational wealth that they built is literally being decimated by the printing of money. So this would help to hedge against that, and the capability to be able to use real true gold in the market value. Now, I know it's not in the bill, but Texas is a great model for setting up a depository, and the investment that's actually done through that. I mean, we've seen massive private investment in the state of Texas due to their capability to become a gold depository. Again, willing to remove that portion, but I think that's a huge misstep to be able to be a real lucrative investment for people. Now, I know there's a lot of heartburn of how can we use this. Well, we have the gold backs, but there's also the Swiss bank has a gold depository, and you can actually get a debit card. The transaction is no different than what you get in what's utilized in the debit and credit is taken off the amount of gold that you would potentially have in that bank. So it's not like it's a far out there, outdated like we're paying with gold, little gold coins. It would be just like our modern day type of debit credit system that we utilize, but it would be done in the terms of gold and its value versus the value of the dollar. Kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent, the central bank digital currency is one of the bigger things that I push. I know former Senator Eigel was more on the gold and silver, but the true detriment of a central bank digital currency is absolute, complete, and total control of its population and the capability to freeze accounts. We've seen this, and it's not theory. The country of China has a social credit score, and if you're a good actor or a bad actor, how they see fit will actually freeze your capability to engage in commerce, buy food or anything. So it's a real true concern, and in the land of the free, I think it's a terrible policy to go down this road of digitization of our monetary system. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. That's what this would do, and like I said, I'd like to get a sub to remove the state treasurer from having a percentage of gold on hand.
Questions for this witness, or I'm sorry, for the bill sponsor? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Anyone? I'm going to pause right here. We're going to do an executive session since we have several of our members here before we bring up witnesses. So I make a motion we go into executive session. I have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye, and the ayes have it. First up, we have Senate Bill 385. This was Senator Curtis Trent's bill, and it's dealing with data security of insurance companies. I make a motion that we take up Senate Bill 385. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. As I said, this is Senator Trent's bill, and I move that we vote Senate Bill 385 out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford,
Aye.
Gregory, Brown, Huff, McCreary, Mosley, Trent.
By your vote of 5-0, you have do passed Senate Bill 385. I now move that we take up Senate Bill 488. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. This is the bill that I presented last week dealing with certified funds for real estate settlement, the funds for real estate settlements. I now move that we vote Senate Bill 488 out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Senator Mosley, we're now on Senate Bill 488, the certified funds bill that I presented last week. Any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford,
Aye.
Gregory, Brown, Huff, McCreary, Mosley, Trent. 6.
By your vote of 6-0, you do pass Senate Bill 488. I now make a motion that we take up Senate Bill 158. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. And the ayes have it. This is Senator Henderson's bill that we heard a few weeks ago relating to the insurance coverage with alternatives to opioid drugs being prescribed. And I move that we vote Senate Bill 158 out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford,
Aye.
Gregory, Brown, Huff, McCreary, Mosley, Trent.
By your vote of 6-0, you have do pass Senate Bill 158. And the last bill, I make a motion that we bring up or take up Senate Bill 230. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. And the ayes have it. This is Senator Ben Brown's bill that we heard a few weeks ago dealing with the prior authorization of health care services. I do know that there's been some work done on this. I don't imagine this will stay in its current form, but they are doing some, trying to come to some agreements on where this bill needs to go to. But with that, I move that we vote Senate Bill 230 out of committee. Do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion on Senate Bill 230? Seeing none, Barb, please call the roll.
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Gregory. Brown. Huff. McCreary. Mosley. Trent.
By a very enthusiastic 6-0, we have do passed Senate Bill 230. I make a motion we go out of executive session. I have a second. All in favor say aye. We are back on Senate Bill 194, and I would ask if we have any witnesses in favor of Senate Bill 194. All right, I see no, oh, here we go.
Lisa Panett for Armorvine, and we just want to go on record. We think this is a fabulous bill.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 194?
Chairman and members of the committee, Bev Aylen, Liberty Link, Missouri, and want to go on record in support of Senate Bill 194.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, next up in favor of Senate Bill 194? Seeing none, anyone here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 194?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Jared Hankinson, representing the Missouri Chamber of Commerce, here to speak in opposition to the bill, particularly just one provision in the language that gives us heartburn, the gold and silver language. I just realized I left my notes back at my chair, so I can't cite the actual lines and section number like I wanted to for you, but the language in this legislation that would has the shall accept gold and silver coinage, also including private entities in that shall. That does give us heartburn. I do believe Senator Moon's Senate Bill 25 does have, for lack of a better terms, kind of an exemption or a carve-out for, we see in Senator Moon's bill, private entities may accept gold and silver as legal tender. We just want to avoid a government mandate on businesses that may require businesses to completely rework their operational models, might have some high compliance costs to be able to meet the shall accept requirement in there. So happy to work with the bill sponsor to further dive into our concerns there, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for this witness? Senator McCreary.
Yes, ma'am.
I think, if I remember right, it was like the idea of like a fee office or something having to accept gold or silver, and then they would have to have like a scale and things like that. Was that part of your concern?
I think you're right on point there. I look at my father's small business, and St. Louis County is a great example. He does not have the infrastructure in place to accept gold as legal tender. He would have to buy a scale. He would have to go to whether it's banks or other
And then
places.
What price? Like, doesn't the price of gold change?
Consistently.
Yeah.
It'd be hard for him to be able to
Okay.
set, he's a self-employed chiropractor, so his rates are consistent, but if the price of gold fluctuates, he's having to constantly adjust how much gold he's accepting for those services. It would create a rather high burden on his business model and many other business models across the state to be compliant with that.
Okay, thank you.
You kind of spurred a question that comes to mind for me. Do you, just speculation only, I mean, I'm not going to hold you to this, but do you see a point where this could actually raise prices that businesses charge because of that fluctuation in the price of gold, and them having to maybe try to make up for it, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, you're definitely inviting me into the space of speculation here, so I will be cautious with any.
I understand. I'm just kind of wanting your opinion.
Absolutely, I do think it's a possibility. With the fluctuations that we do see in the price of gold, I think it is reasonable to assume that some businesses may raise prices to accommodate any potential fluctuations. If you have a set price for a service, the cost of doing business, maybe you as a business owner under this regulation are more incentivized to raise your prices to avoid any potential losses if you are accepting gold as tender. Say the price of gold tanks, while you're providing service, and then that payment, you don't have time to see and register that in real time, I could certainly see that situation occurring.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your
very much.
testimony. Anyone else to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 194? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only for Senate Bill 194? Seeing none, Senator Brattin, do you have any final comments?
Yeah, just on the price of gold and the fluctuation, I can show you the price of houses literally 100 years ago that you could have bought with the same amount of gold, and you could literally all but buy the same house, a much bigger house for that same amount all across the board. And the stability of gold is well proven. So to say that the fluctuation of gold is a concern when the dollar since 1971 has went down 87% in its value, I guess why would we be concerned with a little fluctuation as opposed to the downward spiral that the dollar that we see literally year after year after year? So thank you for this hearing.
Thank you. That will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 194. Next up, we have Senator Moon, Senate Bill 25. Senator, you can proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Mike Moon. I represent the Missouri 29th Senatorial District, and I'm grateful that you allowed me to present Senate Bill 25 today. I want to start off of what Senator Brattin mentioned with regard to the inflationary impact. Imagine, if you will, that your grandparents left you either 10 $20 gold pieces or 10 $20 bills. What would you choose if you were able to make a choice on which one to accept? Well, if you open up and take the $20 or 10 $20 bills, you've got essentially $200. But the 10 $20 gold pieces today are worth just shy of $30,000. And that shows you the impact of deflation or inflation on, as it relates to the dollar. And with Senate Bill 25, it will essentially allow gold and silver to be used as legal tender in Missouri. And I should have mentioned this too. In Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, it shows what states shall do: enter into any treaty, shall not enter any treaty, alliance or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, or make anything but gold and silver a tender in payment of debts. So we have constitutional authority to do this in Missouri. 5 other states have done so already: Utah, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Arizona, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Make that 6 because Utah just passed theirs. Senate Bill 25 will also not tax capital gains on gold and silver. It's like taxing your money. You have money in the bank, so you're going to tax just because you have those holdings. It will also prohibit the U.S. government's confiscation of gold and silver without due process. So I've already mentioned why the bill is necessary to combat inflation. Also, there are questions, if I recall correctly, about having scales, perhaps, at a store. It's kind of funny because when I first thought of this years ago, I thought that would be the case, where I would take a gold bar and take my knife and scrape off some. They would weigh it like the old assayers would do with gold, silver. But that's not the case, because there are depositories set up today where they can issue you a debit card, kind of like what we use today. So you can take a plastic to the store, wherever you're doing business, swipe it or tap it, whatever the card will do, and there's no conversion required, because wherever the gold or silver is stored, it's automatically converted to whatever the price is at that time of the sale or the transaction. There are some gold back, kind of like bills that are floating around. They're worth whatever the gold is at that particular time, and those can be used as well as coin. And of course, you might remember the term reeding. Have you ever heard of that? When they reed the coins, look at a quarter today, and they've reeded that so that you see the marks in it, so that years ago they would cheat people. They would take some of the coin and they would clip off some of the edges so the coin wasn't as valuable because they would keep the remains. Well, the quarters are reeded so that nobody can do that today on that particular coin. So I think I'll just end it there with saying last year, this bill that we have today was passed out of the Senate with bipartisan support. And so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do the same this year, and I welcome questions if you have them.
Questions for the bill sponsor? Seeing none. Anyone here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 25? Please come forward at this time. Just a reminder that we need you to fill out a witness form and leave it on the desk,
Yes,
please.
ma'am, I've already filled one out. Madam Chair, for the record, my name is Ron Calzone. I'm one of the directors of Missouri First. And I'm actually going to take a little different tact in supporting Senate Bill 25 than Senator Moon has. I'm not smart enough to know how to invest in silver and gold. I'm not smart enough about economics to know the big picture. But what I do recognize is that there's a real big trend towards moving the world to central bank digital currency. If you know anything about history, you know that throughout history, the way that empires have controlled the people is through economic means. They control them economically. And despotic regimes get their way by doing so. And I think they have, in the information age today, in the digital age, they have a greater opportunity to do that than ever. So I'm mostly concerned about the advent of central bank digital currency. A 2023 report by Reuters said there's 130 countries that are exploring central bank digital currency. Some of them have already adopted it. If central bank digital currency is induced and it actually replaces the dollar, every monetary transaction would be tracked and it could be approved or denied based on whether you're making the powers to be happy or not. That should concern you if you didn't like the fact that President Obama had a pen and a phone, or if it concerned you that President Trump has a pen and a phone. So everybody across the political spectrum should be concerned about how central bank digital currency could be used to manipulate their lives. The federal government has the power to determine what is legal tender, so we can't prohibit the use of central bank digital currency. But what a state can do is create a competing currency, give the people of Missouri an alternative so that if central bank digital currency does become a factor in the future, people have another way to buy the necessities of life without having to get approval from somebody up on high. And with that, that's my testimony. I'm available to any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next up in favor of Senate Bill 25.
Again, Lisa Panett, Armorvine, and we just want to go on the record. We support the bill.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor.
Bev Allen, Liberty Link, Missouri. I'm not as smart as Senator Moon or Ron Calzone, but I know a good thing when I see it, so we're in support of this. Thank you.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else want to testify in favor of Senate Bill 25? Seeing none, anyone wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 25? Seeing none, anyone for informational purposes only? Seeing none, Senator Moon, any final comments?
Just briefly, thank you. Mr. Calzone mentioned central bank digital currency, and the order was given to the Treasury Department to determine the feasibility of digital central bank digital currency in March of 2022. They found that there is a way to do it. It's apparently set up to do that, and I'm just concerned that whoever is in control of that might use that to take advantage of folks and limit their ability to buy, sell, or trade. And so that's another part that I didn't include in the bill, but it is something that's on the surface on why it's important to do this.
Thank you, Senator. This will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 25. I make a motion we adjourn. Second. I have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye, aye, and we're adjourned.
Wow, so much pressure.
I'm glad you said, I'm glad you seconded that.
Yeah.
I would have had to do it all myself.